Hi, Begonya, how are you?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine. Can you switch on my camera and I
Yes,
can
I'm
put my
just
slides?
doing that.
Perfect.
Just wait for a
I
second.
cannot do it.
Okay.
Perfect. Great.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. We are honored to have you here. And we are looking forward to have a very good session from you. You can share your screen now so that I can tell you that is it properly working.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation to be this afternoon with all of you. As has been mentioned, I'm working at Sant Joan de Déu Children's Hospital in Barcelona, in Spain. And my area of expertise is pediatric involvement in clinical trials, but also in our institution as we perform basic research and we have a dedicated department to innovate in research. What we have at this moment is a whole plan to involve patients and families in all these activities, from the basic research to the clinical research and innovation, and this is going to be the focus of my presentation. First of all, and considering the topic of this Congress, I'm so happy to explain to all of you that a couple of weeks ago, we just opened a new hospital in our institution. This is the Pediatric Cancer Center, the PCCB Barcelona, that it's fully dedicated to pediatric oncology. This is the new building in which we have not only the medical health services, also we have the research departments from basic research to clinical research, and also the innovation department. Said this, in this new hospital, we have the capability to take care around 400 patients per year. We have a nuclear medicine service, as I have mentioned, the research laboratories, the clean rooms, and many different other services focused specifically in pediatric oncology. And what is important about these new facilities is that these facilities have been co-created and co-designed with the patient and the families. In regards of the research capability of our institution, we have at this moment 16 different groups working in neuroscience, 6 different groups working in pediatric cancer, 11 in metabolism and immunology, 4 clinic groups associated, and 4 specific groups working in health technologies and innovation. This is really important for us because in our institution, obviously, we are an academic institution and we have our own research initiatives, but also we are a site in terms of pediatric clinical trials, and we perform commercial and academic clinical trials in all the pediatric different specialties. And as you can see in the screen, from 2010, the number of clinical trials and observational studies have been increased. Part of this grow up in terms of numbers, also it's the outcome of the implementation of the pediatric regulation, and hopefully, with the full implementation of the European clinical trials regulation, we will see more trials in pediatrics and more patient involvement. That this is the commitment and the role that I have in the institution. Said this, in 2015, we created the patient engagement in research area in our institution, basically with the mission to ensure that the initiatives that we coordinate, that we are the leaders, but the ones in which also we are partners, can have this patient centricity approach. It's something that probably you have listened about a lot recently, but for us, it's not a matter of marketing or a word that we can put in all our research projects. For us, it's something in which we believe, and the only way that we know to really design these research initiatives with this patient-centric approach, it's involving the children and the young people. And something that is crucial for this, it's first of all the ethical approach. We are working with a vulnerable group of patients. They are minors, and we need to protect their privacy and many other aspects. And obviously the second point that also is crucial and important, it's the rights of the children and the young people. First of all, to access to a healthcare services, the best one for them in order to take care of their health condition. But secondly, in regards of research, because when we are speaking about pediatric conditions, most of these diseases are rare conditions and probably we don't have an approved treatment. And the only opportunity that we can provide in terms of treatment to these patients are clinical trials. Said this, the patients are in the heart of our institution, in the heart of our work. And as I have mentioned, the involvement of patients in the activities in which we are involved have different dimensions. And at the end, no, it's the whole journey that any innovation project or any new treatment has, from the basic research, from the bench to the bed. And in this sense, we designed last year a patient participation plan, a patient involvement plan in our institution that is going to tackle and it's going to include all the different departments to ensure that the voice of patients and families are in all these different steps of the journey of any research and innovation initiative in our institution. This plan already is designed from this year, 2022, until 2024, but it's not a project that will finish this year. The idea is to have a review and improve the strategy and commit new objectives and activities with the aim now to make our institution a patient-centric institution in all these dimensions that already have mentioned. First of all, something that is important for us is to have very clear a decalogue of principles. Specifically, we have 10 different principles that will drive any activity of patient involvement in our institution. The first one is that the patient's involvement for us, it's a right. It's something that we try to have in all our initiatives, in all our projects. And obviously, as I have mentioned, it's the only way that we know that will help us to design patient-centric projects. Second is that not always we have the capability, the means, or it's feasible involve directly the patients. We are talking about children and young people with chronic and in some cases degenerative conditions. And in some cases, in terms of the condition or the age of the patients, we cannot involve them directly. And always what we try to do in this scenario is to involve the caregivers. The third principle, as already I mentioned, it's in regards to the ethics principles. We need to provide the right environment, the right methodologies, and the right procedures to involve children and young people. The principle number 4, it's in regards the time and the dedication that patients and parents, they have to our projects. And we reimburse this time because what we don't want to have is that they have expenses to help us to move forward with our projects. And the principle number 5, it's in regards the importance that the design phase has in terms of the impact in the patients, because in this phase, in the design of clinical trial protocols or innovation projects, it's when we decide important things that sometimes usually are challenging or difficult to be changed afterwards. And here it's so important to listen the experience, the preferences, and the needs of the patients and in general the families. There is an important principle that it's the one related to diversity. Pediatric clinical research and pediatric innovation, it's not usually an initiative that it's happening only in one site or in one country. And in all our activities, what we try to do is have this diversity approach involving patients from different countries, different socioeconomical backgrounds, etc., to be sure that the patients that help us to better design our projects, they will be a nice representation of the future patients, the real patients that will take part in these research and innovation initiatives. The principle number 7, it's about accessibility and special needs. We need to consider this anytime that we design a patient involvement activity in order to be inclusive and facilitate the same opportunities for all the patients and the families. The principle number 8 refers to the capacity building programs that we have for patients and their families. Our young people, our kids, they don't have obviously scientific background, and in the schools, we are not teaching, at least in Spain, in regards of drug development, innovation, clinical research, basic research. And what we have are different materials, tools, and training opportunities to be sure that any time that we involve children, young people, and families, they have the right background, the right knowledge and skills. The principle number 9, it's in regards quality and excellence. We do research about our own patients' involvement activities. And the last point that also it's crucial to move forward with this plan, it's the need to work towards a cultural mindset change in our institution, because everybody, not only the researchers, other areas and departments also, they need to know the importance of involving patients in order to support this process. This is a summary about how it's organized, this patient involvement plan in our institution. We are working in this cultural change that I mentioned. This is so important, and we are doing a lot of activities with the different departments and medical areas. It's important also the training of the staff, because they need to know all the opportunities that they have to involve patients in their projects. In parallel, as I have mentioned, it's crucial the training and the education of patients, and work with the awareness in general in the society about the need of more pediatric clinical research, and obviously more involvement of pediatric patients in the initiatives, in the projects. At the end of this plan, what we are going to do is to measure the impact, obviously see which are the outcomes of the research done in the field, and evaluate the plan. And the idea is to design a future plan for the period 2024 until 2026 to deliver new activities according to the needs of our institution and our projects. Some key concepts that already my colleagues from UK, they have mentioned, and these definitions came from this country, and we work in these three different dimensions. From one side, we are working in engagement activities. This is related any information, any awareness activity, because we need to educate in general the society, not only the patients and the families. Involvement for us are all these specific activities in which we are impacting directly our projects, our initiatives, and you will see afterwards that we work with different methodologies. And finally, participation for us, and in this plan, refers to the real people, the real patients that they are going to take part in a research study. So this, our plan impact all the dimensions from the basic research until the end of a clinical trial project. In our institution, we perform a lot of academic research. Some of the research, obviously, it's feasible because we have biological samples from patients and families, and this is an area in which we are educating a lot and seeing how we can increase the collection of these biological samples, not only of the patients that they are living with a condition. Also, for us, it's crucial to have healthy control groups. But obviously, beyond this, these patients and these families, sometimes they support with crowdfunding campaigns and other activities, the resources to move forward with these projects. And it's essential for us anytime at any of these stages to provide feedback about the outcomes of the activities that we have achieved thanks to their contribution. When involved the patients, for us it's so important to mention that patients can have a role in the whole process. But as I have mentioned, in the design phase is when the impact is higher, because we take these decisions that usually are challenging to change afterwards. And sometimes the impact to change or to adjust a clinical trial protocol, it's a matter of time. And also it's a matter to have the funding resources for this, because we or the sponsor of the trial need to pay a tax for any new amendment of a clinical trial protocol. Said this, also it's important to mention that the patients can be around the whole process. And what we do when we have a potential opportunity to involve patients and families, it's do an assessment exercise and see beyond this design phase when it's meaningful, involve the patients if we can involve them directly, if we need to involve the parents or both. And also what we do is an assessment about which is the best methodology for this. And this is something that I want to highlight, that for every project it's different, because the clinical trial design or the innovation project design, whatever the initiative, probably will be different. But also what is going to be different is the disease and probably the age of the patients. Said this, there is no gold standard to define the best methodology to involve patients in the drug development process and in innovation initiatives. And it's so crucial to have on mind and to design a patient involvement in the right moment to ensure that we can include the patient's voice in the key moments of our projects. Something that we are going to do also in this plan is to analyze the impact. And it's not only a matter to see what are the benefits of involving patients in our projects. Also, it's a matter to demonstrate something that the common sense said, if you involve the patients, your projects will be more patient-centric, will be better for them. But it's crucial in pediatrics because the evidence and the number of projects in which children and young people have been involved, it's quite limited. It's very important to collect this information to demonstrate that this is something key that provides value to the project, and it's an investment that can save resources for the future. This impact analysis, it's done in our projects in terms of the return on investment and also in terms of the return on engagement. We also have in this plan a dedicated chapter for anything in regards of the administrative processes that entails involve patients and families in research. When we work with patients, organizations, and adults, we have the contract of this advice activity, the confidentiality agreement, and obviously we have our fair market value to reimburse the patients. How or which kind of activities we have in terms of patients' involvement? We have different ways to involve the patients. The most frequent are the ad hoc groups of patients and carers, the same example that my colleagues of UK mentioned. If we have a clinical trial of a specific condition, what we do is to set up an ad hoc group of patients or parents living with this condition, because obviously are the ones that can contribute directly with their experience. But in some projects, it depends of the request that we have. Sometimes it's a matter to collect preferences of being a young person. And in this sense, we have the Kids Barcelona Young Persons Advisory Group that help in this general approach to clinical research and innovation. And we have the same version of this group with parents, the Kids Parents Groups. Both of these groups are formed by patients or parents living with different conditions, and they help us to these general and strategic projects. For example, this patient involvement plan have been reviewed and validated for both groups of representatives in our institution. And also we have a team of research ambassadors. They are volunteers of our institutions that they help us to support and develop awareness activities and dissemination activities. And this is so important because in our institution, the volunteers are a huge group of people, and some of them, they have scientific background and can help us in these kind of activities that are so important also to educate the society about the importance of involving patients in research and in innovation. This is a photo of our young persons advisory groups, the Kids Barcelona team and the website. We have at this moment 20 young people from many different conditions, and we met with them once per month to review and validate these general projects that I mentioned to you. Our group is not the only one in Europe. There are around more than 30 different YPACs across Europe, and with our colleagues from UK that are coordinating the national network, the Generation R, our colleagues from Kids France, Scotland, and also our institution, these 4 hospitals, what we are doing is coordinate this network, a YPAC-net. This stands for European Young Persons Advisory Group Network, that has the recognition of EMPRIMA, the European Network of Pediatric Research Networks of the European Medicines Agency. And together we do collaborative projects also to bring the country diversity perspective to these initiatives. In regards of the other groups of patients and carers, we can cover all the therapeutic areas in pediatrics and pregnant women, also some therapeutic areas in adults, because as already Dr. Solange Radu from AstraZeneca mentioned, there are some studies in which teenagers can be involved that have been designed for the adult population. And for us also, it's important to bring our expertise and our patients in these studies. And also we have the capability through this network and other initiatives in which we are part to involve patients from different regions of the world. I want also to highlight something that for us it's important for the people that we are working in patients involvement, that it's the full implementation of the clinical trials regulation that happened this year in January. There are two specific points that support the approach in regards of the benefit of involving patients in the clinical trials design. The first one is the Article 9.3, in which is a state that at least one lay person shall participate in the assessment of the clinical trial application. For us, this lay person deserves to be obviously a patient or caregiver. This is so important because you can never make a good opinion about something that you are not living with. And the second point in which for us it's crucial is clinical trial regulation. It's the Annex number 1 that in the Article 17 letter E states that when in a clinical trial protocol design the patients were involved, it's important to report and to submit this information with the dossier to the European Medicines Agency. Obviously, patient involvement, it's not a mandatory process, but as the clinical trials regulation, it's encouraging the sponsors to inform anytime that they have to do these activities to the regulatory agency. We expect that time by time we will have more opportunities to involve the patient in the drug development process. In this slide, you can see different kind of methodologies that we use to involve the patients. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, we have done a lot of virtual activities, but in some projects, what we do is a blended method when feasible. Obviously, in this international approach, we try to avoid any travel from the patients and always are virtual. But when we are involving patients and families from our institution, we try to do it face-to-face or blended. The methodologies that we use are focus groups, Delphi methodology, questionnaires, interviews. You have in this slide different methods. And in the assessment phase that I mentioned, we do at the very beginning of any research initiative or innovation project, what we do also, it's not only the moment in which it's meaningful, involves the patients. What we do also, it's the assessment about which is the best methodology to get the feedback and the input of the patients in these initiatives. For us, quality and evaluation, it's important. We have performance and quality indicators in this plan. We have a specific patient experience survey that we distribute to all the families in the clinical trials unit, a patient involvement quality survey for all the patients and families that have been involved in patient involvement activities. And we are working at this moment in an acknowledgement and return of results to all the participants in these activities. We have a close collaboration with patients' organizations. In our institution, we have a dedicated department to work with the POs that has a regular and permanent collaboration with more than 100 different organizations in Spain. Training to the patients and to the staff is crucial, as I have mentioned, because at least from the patient side, they are naive in science, and obviously we cannot put children and young people in a discussion about a clinical trial study if we have not explained to them the basis about what is a clinical research initiative. And also, a last chapter of this patient involvement plan, it's fully dedicated to the importance of do research in the field of patient involvement. We have 4 different areas. The first one is an area fully dedicated to co-create educational materials for patients and families. In the slide, you have an example of the welcome kit. This is a kit that we offer to all the families that participate in clinical trials in our institution. And this was co-created with patients, families, and clinicians. And at this moment, what we are doing is evaluating the impact of the resource. A second area in which we are doing research, it's in the field of the return on investment and the return on the engagement, the impact that I have already explained, because what we want to demonstrate is that the revenue to dedicate resources to involve patients in drug development and innovation project, it's higher than the cost. A third area is fully dedicated about the impact and the benefits to include the simulation as a methodology to involve patients. And the last area, the number 4, it's fully dedicated to perform research projects based in information and data that our families and patients can send to us, that usually it's not safe in the health medical records that we have in our hospital. And finally, what I want to highlight is that anything in regards of patients' involvement, at the end, it's a recognition of the rights of the children. There are 2 important articles in the Convention of the Rights of the Child. The first one is the article number 12, that said that any children and any young person have the right to freely express their views. And this is something that we promote in our patients' involvement activities. And the second one is the article 24, that highlights that the children, they have the right to the highest standard of health. And in this sense, as I have mentioned, and specifically in pediatrics, sometimes we don't have a targeted and approved treatment. And obviously research, it's the only therapeutical opportunity that we can bring to them. And as a summary, patient involvement for us, it's the right to access to science and the right to access to research. And basically, it's the only way that we know to perform patient-centric initiatives. This is all from my side. You have here my email of contact, and I will be happy to answer any question now or afterwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation, and I hope everybody have enjoyed your session. We have got feedback for your presentation. Thank you for the excellent talk. I like the idea of compensating patients for their time, but how do you ensure that compensation is not the primary incentive to take part?
First of all, I want to highlight that we compensate the parents, not the children. The children, we give to them a brochure to be invested in educational or cultural activities. Secondly, obviously, we inform these patients or parents to be involved in our projects. And once they agree, we mention that we cover any cost that they will have at the time. Obviously, it's compensated. But for us, the first step is to be sure that they know the value about the activities that we are inviting them to take part. It's not a payment for a service. It's a compensation for their time. That it's a different approach.
Okay, got it. So thank you so much. I'll ask the audience that if they're still having questions related to your presentation, they can ask in the chat or in the QA session.